I believe it is time for the inaugural Harvey Honors, where we have ESP for the next 15, 20 to 25 minutes, where we try to predict who will end up getting MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year. Let's see if we can nail it down. We're gonna alternate. So MVP, Offensive Player.
Okay.
So this is what we're doing now. So let's jump in to my MVP pick for the 2023-2024 NFL season is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is my pick for the MVP. Now this, honestly, is more so. This I guarantee you, this will have the Embiid effect that we saw in the NBA. It's about time Joe Burrow gets his MVP award. I mean, he's right there neck and neck with Mahomes. He has the 3-1 record against Mahomes. Honestly, he's played better than Mahomes in each of one of those games. And if Mahomes is truly the greatest player in the league, why is this one quarterback probably his kryptonite in a head-to-head battle between those two quarterbacks? I think personally, Joe Burrow, this is the year Joe Burrow gets it. I was between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. I decided to go with the player that could actually be on top of the AFC potentially, and the one that I think probably is, I think universally is at least the second best quarterback in the league. I think Joe Burrow takes a little bit of a leap here. It has sort of an Embiid effect where people are like, I guess he deserves it now. He's a great quarterback, phenomenal quarterback, number 2, and I think the closest quarterback right now in the league, I think it's Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and I think there's a pretty decent gap between 2 and 3, and Joe Burrow is the closest to being sort of surpassing Mahomes as the best quarterback in the league. Let's go with your MVP pick.
I pick Mahomes.
There it is.
I just think, how can you not pick him? I think he's shown he's consistently great, and maybe his receiving core this year is not quite what it has been in some of the past years, but he still has the mobility. He still has the smarts out on the field. He makes some ridiculous throws, the no-look throws sometimes. I think his team is a Super Bowl caliber team and likely will get back to the Super Bowl. So I think with 13 wins and deep into the playoffs and the Super Bowl perhaps again this next year, and maybe 5,000 yards passing and a good touchdown interception ratio, I look for Mahomes to be the MVP.
Fair enough. Let's get into, I believe it's Offensive Player of the Year. My Offensive Player of the Year is Justin Jefferson, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, what I'm being told, at least from my friends, is this guy has a very good shot at becoming the greatest receiver in NFL history. I mean, I think he's on track for that. He's probably on track to be the first 2,000-yard receiver, and that's with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. So last season, with Kirk Cousins, the guy who, when the lights are the brightest, he comes up the smallest, that's his quarterback. The wide receiver is a very, very dependent position, and that's on the quarterback. With Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, he got 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns. And the season before that, 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns. The season before that, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. This guy is a machine. He is a machine, a well-oiled, on fire, burning bright machine. Justin Jefferson is right now the best wide receiver in the NFL. Also has the best touchdown celebration in the NFL as well. I mean, this guy, hands down best receiver in the league at the moment. Justin Jefferson, I think right now, Offensive Player of the Year, regardless of who his quarterback is. Hell, it could be Mac Jones. I think Justin Jefferson would still be phenomenal because Kirk Cousins, he's a B quarterback at the very best. And like I said before, when the lights are the brightest, Kirk Cousins definitely is the darkest quarterback out there. He's not lit at all. I think Justin Jefferson right now, the way he's been playing. He won Offensive Player of the Year last season. I think he comes up back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year. I go 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, Justin Jefferson, as my pick. Your pick now is?
My pick is Jamar Chase. And you can see he's got number 1 on his uniform there. So he's going to be the number 1 Offensive Player of the Year. And I think it's really close between him and Jefferson has the better stats in his career so far. But you have to look at who's throwing in the ball. I mean, the receiver, the Offensive Player of the Year, if it's going to be a wide receiver, you got to count on the quarterback getting them the ball and getting it to them accurately and often. And I would say that Joe Burrow has a better shot at doing that to Jamar Chase than Kirk Cousins has to Jefferson.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point.
So I like Jamar Chase.
All right, let's go for offensive rookie of the year. I'm going with a guy that I don't believe in his team, but I think I believe in him in enough to be the offensive rookie of the year, and that's Bijan. Oh, I guess we're doing defensive player of the year. Sorry, Micah Parsons. That's what we're doing. Let me switch it up a little bit then. So defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. So he's a 2-time All-Pro first-team defensive player. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. This is his 3rd year in the NFL. By the way, his 13 sacks his rookie year, 13 and a half his sophomore season. There's only 2 other players in NFL history that have had that. The first 2 seasons where he's had 13 or more sacks, and one of them is Reggie White. Ever heard of him? Yeah, exactly my point. He's been the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year his first 2 seasons. I think this is a time where he gets it. He's a dominating force on that Cowboys defensive front. I mean, this guy is absolutely insane with the pass rush. The Cowboys defense, we know, is incredible, and that's largely due to the fact that Micah Parsons is out there shredding offensive lines, getting sacks, generating pressures, and being an all-around phenomenal defensive player. Since we're doing Defensive Player of the Year, who's your Defensive Player of the Year?
I think your choice is a good one, but I think Nick Bosa is the better of the 2. And so I'm picking him. He's holding out on a contract issue right now, but the 49ers are smart enough to know they're not going to the Super Bowl without him. So, and they're off. The other thing I would say, I think the San Francisco's defense overall is better than Dallas's. And so they're going to focus on, they can't focus on one player as much in the San Francisco's defense as they can in Dallas's. So I think they'll have a plan for Micah Parsons that will restrict him from getting to the quarterback a little more this year because they can cover the other pieces that aren't quite as good. And San Francisco's setup, though, that's not quite as true. And I think Nick Bosa will be getting to the quarterback quite a bit this year.
I think the big question mark there is whether or not they sort out that situation that they're dealing with right now with Nick Bosa holding out. I think that's the major point here is are they going to do it? And it seems like I'll probably agree with you. By week 1, I think they will get something done with Nick Bosa. But
it'll be soon.
If they don't, I don't know. I think that could hinder potentially Nick Bosa's chance of being Defensive Player of the Year. All right, now let's get into the Rookie of the Years. Like I was talking about before, I don't necessarily believe in his team, but I kind of believe in the player at least being Offensive Rookie of the Year, and that's Bijan Robinson, the running back. So honestly, a lot of things set up really, really well for Bijan Robinson winning this award. First off, he's in a great run-heavy scheme. He's a running back, run-heavy scheme. Perfect fit right there. Last season, the Falcons had the highest graded run-blocking guard, and that's Chris Lindstrom. He was a right guard. Highest grade. I think he had like a 92.3 or a 93.2. Very, very high grade. He has this is surprising. He has a top 10 offensive line. The Falcons have a top 10 offensive line. And here's something else that actually benefits him and puts this award in sort of in his wheelhouse. Since 1967, 35 out of 56 years, running backs have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So there's another thing. And also, in the preseason, we saw the first touch was instant success. So I think right now, with the way the rookies are, I know who your Rookie of the Year is, your Offensive Rookie of the Year is. The problem with that is offensive line. The player that you have doesn't have a good offensive line. At least
player. You're talking about your player. I'll get to mine in a minute.
I'm just saying. At least my running back, at least my player, has a top 10 offensive line and has the highest rated run blocking guard. So let's get into your pick. I sort of hinted it at there.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I like Bryce Young. I think he brings a lot to the table. He was the number 1 draft pick of Carolina. Carolina has a great coaching staff around him with Frank Wright as the head coach, who was a quarterback in his career. And I think Bryce Young has a great opportunity as long as he can get just a little protection back there. He is very mobile. Then I think he'll have a good year, good enough to get him Rookie of the Year.
I think that's a fair point. But that offense that we saw against the Jets, did he even have 2 seconds before he was getting pummeled into the ground?
I know. Well, he can take a hit. We learned that. They hit him hard.
That is fair.
But I think in his division, he's going to be playing some teams that aren't that great, so he could shine there.
Could be.
And their schedule is not one of the toughest, so I think he has a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
And that's another thing with my running
I think
back.
your choices probably has a pretty good chance too, because the Falcons do have a very good offensive line, and running backs have had good success winning Offensive Player of the Year. So.
Not only that, they have the 31st hardest schedule in the league. And you talk about the Panthers playing some easy teams. The Saints have the 32nd hardest schedule in the league.
Yeah.
So they're going to be up. They're going to be at it.
The Saints or the Falcons?
The Saints have the 32nd hardest schedule.
But
they have the easiest one. The
Bijan Robinson.
He plays for the Falcons, right? But you said that he'll be playing some teams in his division that aren't that good.
Yeah.
Well, they have easy schedules, so they might not be that good, but their record may be better just based on the teams they play.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Let's get into Defensive Rookie of the Year. This was a shock, at least, just based on the circumstances, and that's Jalen Carter on the Eagles. So since Hargrave left to go to the 49ers, this puts Jalen Carter right in the spotlight to succeed instantly. Now, in his position, defensive tackle, it isn't all about sacks. There's also they stretch out the greatness of a defensive tackle. That's run stuffs. That's double teaming guards, so you allow your other players to go out and pressure the quarterback. It's QB pressures, and then it's sacks. Jalen Carter, we saw him in college, a very, very dominant defensive front guy. He's a pure disruptor. We saw in camp, I mean, the huge thing going to the draft, he fell based on his off-the-field issues, but it seems like that was really a non-factor. That's a non-issue now for the Eagles. He's been dominating in camp. I think Jalen Carter is going to have a lot of success. I think he's going to generate a lot of pressures. Not necessarily he'll get 10 sacks. Can he get 4 or 5? I think there's a chance he can get 4 or 5, because I really, really believe Jalen Carter is that type of guy. And you know what? He has the talent to do it. A lot of people thought if you take away his off-the-field stuff and just look at his playmaking, that he could be a better defensive player than Will Anderson, and he should have been probably drafted higher than Will Anderson if it wasn't for off-the-field stuff. That definitely dinged his draft value just a little bit. But I think with the Eagles, that dominating defensive front, keeping guys fresh, subbing in and out, I think Jalen Carter's in a perfect situation to go out and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Let's get into yours now.
You mentioned mine, Will Anderson. I think he's going to get it. They traded up to get to him, and I think they made a smart move by drafting C.J. Stroud second and then moving up to pick Will Anderson on defense. So they have two potential superstars, one on offense, one on defense. So that will be, they can build their team around these guys. And I think Will Anderson is going to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year.
And now we come to the final one, which is Coach of the Year. I believe in this guy. I said, as soon as the season ended, actually throughout, I've said I like this coach a lot, and I think it's finally his time to shine. So my Coach of the Year is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've already predicted this. He will lead his team to their first division win in 30 years. 1993 was the last time the Lions won the NFC North. And not only that, I guarantee you there is a large shot. I understand that playoffs is not necessarily, mixed into this, but I do think, a little bit of sugar, sprinkling sugar on top, it sort of does get woven into what matters most. And I think because, Brian Daboll led the Giants to the playoffs as well, and they won a playoff game. I guarantee you. Now, on the books, they're not going to say it, but I think that playoff win definitely helped this case. I guarantee you, Dan Campbell has put this team in a position to win their first playoff game since 1991, over 30 years ago. He's built up a great culture with the Lions. He instills confidence in his players. He's built up a phenomenal offensive line. He's got definitely some great weapons. Jared Goff doesn't look half bad. So, I'm taking this. They have a top 5 offensive line right now. Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year candidate. I love it. I love it a lot. I think he's going to win the division. I think there's a large chance he wins the first playoff game since 1991. Dan Campbell is my Coach of the Year.
Oh, I think you might have beyond something there. I think the division this year for him is weak.
Yeah.
Right? The Aaron Rodgers is no longer with the Packers, and the Bears are perennial cellar dwellers. So maybe Minnesota. I don't know. We'll see how they do. I think they played over their heads last year, so I think they may come back to earth. You might be right there, but I am picking Bill Belichick, my favorite coach of all time, and I think he's going to have the Patriots performing much higher than people's expectations, and we'll get into the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs, and that will get him Coach of the Year.
Deep into the playoffs. Yeah. That's great.
I like that outfit you got him in there. Yeah. The red sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off. That's his signature.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this
Patriots hat with the logo on it, very nice.
And a visor.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this picture was taken this offseason. I think that's the first time he wore it since I think he wore it at a Super Bowl that they lost.
That's right, they lost.
I think that's the first time he wore it since that Super Bowl. I could be wrong. I think that was the first time in this preseason. So there it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.